Oh, hello there. Thank you for joining us once again on this, the 10th episode.
107. 107th episode.
And 7th episode of the Drunk Doctor Who podcast, wherein we discuss the 107th serial of Doctor Who.
Nightmare of Eden.
Ooh.
Alright, this is the DVD, but we watched it on Blu-ray, because it's out on Blu-ray for the box set for the season. Anyway, pretty straightforward serial, actually.
Just a solid action sci-fi.
Yeah.
A lot of intrigue, backstabbing, so on.
Dealing
and
with
so
drugs.
Drugs.
Wait, what are you doing? Yeah. Alright.
Where are we drinking today, Eddie?
Rum. Captain Morgan spiced rum. And you got your reds.
What makes the red man red?
Alright. Anyway, this was a 4-part serial from Tom Baker's 6th season, which is the 17th season. I didn't change the date. Today's the 12th. Alright. Anyway, this story today is the 12th of December, 2022. This aired from November 24th, 1979 to 12/15/1979. So this is one of those rare serials that go across the date where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So companions are K9 and Romana. The bad guys are the Mandels, Diamond, and what was his name?
I think I spelled it.
Trist.
I think I spelled these right.
Yeah, and Trist.
Can't be sure though. I guess Customs was somewhat antagonistic.
I wouldn't put them up there, but yeah, they're just bureaucratic maniacs. Alright.
Out for their promotion.
Okay. So the Doctor and Romana are in the TARDIS, and there's essentially a ship that's a cruise liner that holds these people down in the holds, going to this planet called Azure.
The Empress Silver Cruiser.
Yep, the Empress is the name of the ship. So the
En route from
Station 9.
Station 9 to Azure.
Azure. Yeah. So, and they've got this kid. He's the navigator. I mean, he looks like 18 or something.
Sucker.
Anyway, he puts in coordinates. The coordinates are all off because he's just acting stoned as all get out or something.
You're on crack.
Yeah. It turns out it is actually something like that. It turns out to be a drug, Voxilin?
Vraxion.
Vraxion.
Or just Vrax.
Or Vrax, yeah.
It induces complacency and then euphoria and
And then eventually
the abuser.
You just don't care at all.
Yeah. And then once you're going through withdrawals, once it fades, you get a severe mood crash, and then you'll do just about anything to get on that high again.
Which is like a lot of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is basically once you start taking this drug, you're basically dead. Like so fentanyl stuff like now, you know. So
dead man walking.
So the kid put in the wrong coordinates, and the ship comes out of hyperdrive, and there's another ship coming right at it as it comes out of hyperdrive, and the two ships essentially merge. I think there was something on a Star Trek episode like this once.
It seemed very Star Trek-y,
yeah.
With the different spaceships. Right?
So the ships, the bigger one, the Empress, and the smaller one, the Hecate, named after the Greek, part of them merge together, and there are zones where the ships are intertwined in such a way that they're incredibly unstable. The Doctor, a mayday is sent out by the Empress pilot. What's his name?
Captain Rain Rigg.
He sends out a mayday, and the the Doctor and Romana respond to the Mayday, and the TARDIS shows up. The Doctor... Okay, Riggs is the Hecate guy, or the guy in the Empress?
Riggs is the captain of the Empress.
Okay, what's the name of the captain of the...
Diamond,
yeah.
Is the captain of the Hecate.
Hecate. If you haven't noticed, I still haven't got a light over here yet because my car is still in the bloody shop after 4 weeks.
What about a light?
We were going to put a light here because my corner is fairly dark, but I haven't gotten one yet because my car is still in the shop.
We'll get you like a key light or something.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, so...
Professionalism.
Yeah.
Professional.
Right. So the Doctor originally passes himself off as a galactic
insurance
and salvage. Yeah. He says, "Hey, we can salvage this," and the other guy's like, "Okay."
From the insurance, I'm having a look around.
Yeah, he's like, well, let's not do anything yet. I can't sign anything until I talk to the company. But he looks up the Galactic Insurance and Salvage, and turns out it had closed 20 years prior.
2096?
Yeah, so this is like 2116. And he goes, the Doctor, yeah, they've been shut down for 20 years. And he's like, I was wondering why I hadn't been paid.
They were only open for like 30 years from the 2060s.
No, 60. I think it was 2036 or so.
I thought it was you might be right, yeah. But that's a realistic timeline for an actual space insurance company. Like, we're talking about SpaceX and Virgin Blue starting commercial.
Right. 2036 is Shatner went up in space.
So we might have a space insurance and salvage company.
I'm going to go see Shatner next month.
Shatner?
William Shatner, yeah.
You're seeing William Shatner?
Yeah, speaking of Star Trek.
Captain Slow.
Yeah, he's coming to town here in Lubbock.
Oh, here.
Yeah, and he's doing a deal where he asks questions and stuff and all that, and he shows Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2.
I heard about the Wrath of Khan thing, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I didn't know he was actually going to be there.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. He's 90 years old, finally got to go into space.
Wow. Old dude.
Still trucking. Cool. Yeah, in fact, I think all of the captains... the main captains in all of the Star Trek shows are still alive.
Yeah.
All of them. Interesting.
Picard came back for his spin-off series.
Yeah, his We Have to Destroy You Because You're a Hero We Don't Like spin-off series, yeah.
Passing off the torch to a less creative writing cast, perhaps.
Malou. Alright. So anyway, the Doctor says, well, look, it's not impossible to separate the ships. And the captains are like, what? And he says, no. Obviously, the circumstances created this. We just have to recreate the circumstances precisely, and we can separate the ships. It was like, okay.
Semi-phase together.
Right, we just have to...
Atoms are...
Right, we've got to shoot... Right, we have to...
reverse the polarity.
Well, later on they do. But they have to agitate the molecules by moving the ship forward and then backwards. And they have to do that with both ships. And then fire at the unstable areas with whatever the heck it was that K9 eventually had.
Which is a great allegory for intercourse. Agitating. Forward and out. You shoot okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Doctor is running around trying to figure out how to take the ships apart. In the meantime, the young kid who was so high is supposed to show the Doctor where the power room is. And he tells the Doctor, then he runs off to go get another hit of his drug.
Vrax over there.
Yeah.
He's coming down from his high and he's getting a little...
Yeah, a little jonesy. The Doctor follows him, finds where the stash is, and then the Doctor takes some, figures out that it's Vraxilin or whatever.
Vraxion.
Yeah, because K9, he's like, oh my gosh. K9's like, this is the exact quote was, "This is the compound from which the drug XYR or something is made,
Something like that,
which
yeah.
makes Vraxolin." And the doctor's like, "Vraxolin? I've seen entire planets destroyed by Vraxolin, whole civilizations." And
like fentanyl.
yeah. So anyway, the doctor goes ahead and he tries to go back to the place where the stash is, and somebody shoots him, stuns him.
Stuns it.
Right.
Somebody.
Yeah. Doctor doesn't know who, but he gets stunned. In the meantime,
They take the vial of Frax off of him.
right. In the meantime, Romana has met a scientist, Trist.
And his assistant, Della.
Yeah. And Trist speaks very distinctly in a German-Dutch accent. Very Peter Sellers-esque in style, mannerisms, and in face. It's not Peter Sellers, but the whole style he could have been. Could have been an homage, yeah. So anyway, this scientist goes around the galaxy collecting samples of specimens and puts them into a...
Dirty sock.
Huh?
Oh, different kind of specimen.
No, he puts them into a crystal,
yeah.
Right. So he basically creates these little pocket dimensions of these creatures on these crystals, but his device is incredibly crude and unstable. It only becomes more unstable thanks to the unstable fields between the two ships.
It's missing some sort of dampener component that hasn't been
Yeah.
invented yet.
Yeah.
It's like they invented the telephone, but they forgot the receiver. It's not quite there.
So the doctor tells him he needs to shut that thing down. He doesn't like it at all, you know. When the doctor gets up and after he's found by K9 and Romana.
The doctor's very obviously morally opposed to it. He calls it a zoo, and
Yeah.
he doesn't like that he's plucking up species of... So the scientist, Trist, says it's a conservational effort to keep species from being extinct, but the doctor doesn't really like his methodology. Cheers.
No. Cheers. In fact, there's something like this device that comes along later.
We've
during
seen
the Sixth Doctor.
something a lot like it in the past with the... What was it called? The zoo? They get sucked inside of it, and they're stuck in a time loop, and the sea monster keeps raiding the ship.
Oh, I thought that was in the future.
No, we already watched
That was in the
one.
past.
Yeah, we've seen
What
that.
was that?
The, something zoo, wild space. I'll find it. Keep going.
Was that the Third Doctor or the Fourth Doctor?
I think that was Baker. It might have been Pertwee. It's gonna be in here somewhere.
No, that's Pertwee. That's Pertwee.
It was Pertwee? Okay.
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking it was the Sixth Doctor, but no, that's the Third Doctor.
Yeah, that is.
That was the Third Doctor.
This is a goofy one.
It was in color, and it had the people in the really freaky outfits.
Yeah. And then
Let's
the...
see. Hold on. Carnival of Monsters.
There it is.
Serial 66.
Yeah, that was a fun
Carnival of Monsters, yeah.
It was Pertwee?
Yes.
Yes.
Pertwee's fourth season, I believe. But anyway, but yeah,
I like that one.
this is very similar to that, and obviously these devices are not popular. Anyway,
They don't really work very well.
yeah, and
Historically.
it's not ethical to capture people and creatures and put them in such things. Very,
That's
very
wild.
good. Yeah. Anyway, it's you could argue it's slightly more ethical in a real zoo, just for educational purposes and to save species.
Conservational.
Well, to save species that are just dying out,
I mean, they use zoos for conservational efforts, but
Yeah, but
then there's SeaWorld and...
yeah. Anyway, and a lot of that is a lot of the questions about that are brought up. But yeah, the doctor.
It's not very free range.
Yeah, the doctor goes over a big liturgy of things that Trist needs to have for his machine to not be unstable. And he's like, the guy's like, what? The doctor says, you don't even have the stabilizer? No, shut that thing off.
The doctor's not a big fan of Trist.
Mm-mm.
Trist is a big fan of Trist, though, so it's okay.
Well, and he's a big fan of the doctor. He's like, such a wonderful mind.
Intellectual.
Yes. All right. So anyway, come to find out, there's the doctor is trying to get to the power room. So that he can manipulate the power on the Empress so they can try and remove the ships apart. So he has K9 cut a hole about this big to go to the power room, and K9 opens it. They open it, and this big creature has its arms flailing like this, comes out, kind of, it's this thing right here on the box.
Mandrill.
Mandrill, yep. So,
Ugly.
you find out that's what they're called later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the end of episode 1, with the Mandrill flailing. Episode 2.
K9 saves the day. He zaps at the Mandrill. It retreats back into the hole.
And they close it with this thing back, and they reseal it. The doctor is trying to get eventually to the power room, and that's the besides the drugs, that's the MacGuffin. The whole thing is they keep going, why doesn't he do this? Because he keeps trying and trying and he can't get there.
He's not the only one trying to get to the power room, apparently. There's the guy that stunned him earlier with the silver jumpsuit and glasses.
Yeah, all the passengers have to wear this silver jumpsuit. They look like they're in the Buggles.
Yeah. What's the Buggles?
Okay, it's a group. They had one hit. Video Killed the Radio Star.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
They
famous.
wear those jumpsuits?
They had very much silver jumpsuits like that. It's famous because it was the very first video ever played on MTV.
Really?
Yeah, Video Killed the Radio Star. It just makes sense.
It's a good debut.
Yeah. So, anyway, in episode 2,
What does the M stand for?
music.
Music.
It used to.
Now it stands for mad.
It just doesn't stand for anything. 'Cause they don't play music anymore.
They don't.
No. You had to go. They made MTV2 and then MTV3, and now MTV's like all these reality shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they haven't played music in decades.
Mad Magazine, that's what I'm thinking of.
Well, it was Mad TV.
Mad TV.
Yeah, that was on Fox back in the 90s.
Okay.
That's where Jim Carrey got his big start.
All those M words.
All right, so the doctor has found the Vraxoin, and he is trying to tell everybody the Vraxoin's on board. Oh, there's a great chase scene when you find out Stott was a member of Trist's expedition, but he supposedly died.
Yes.
And the doctor's checking all the planets that they went to on the expedition to try and figure out where the Vrax could come from. Mm-hmm. And he says, no, K9 checked, all those planets are clean. It's like, okay. And there's the scene where the doctor, a Mandrill goes after the doctor.
Yes.
Gets shot by Stott. We don't know what Stott is. It's just that guy who stunned the doctor earlier. And the doctor chases him through all these stairs.
It's like a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo chase. And the doctor goes through the same cabin of passengers like 3 or 4 times, making it look like how it's bigger.
Yeah. First class, economy class.
Yeah.
Business class.
Finally, the doctor just is like, I can't keep chasing the guy. He's using the elevator. I'm using the stairs. This is bad.
Mm-hmm. Gets away.
Yeah.
Doesn't he chase him into the unstable void, though?
Mm-hmm.
He hangs out in purgatory.
He chases him into the unstable area, and then he's in the luggage compartment, and the guy jumps him, but then the Mandrills show up.
Yes.
And the doctor, K9 and Ramon are looking for him. The doctor manages to crawl out of the luggage area through the unstable area.
Mm-hmm.
and then he and Romana go to the cockpit, and there's a couple of Azure customs agents, enforcement guards,
and Costa.
Yeah, they seem more like immigration guys because that's the first thing they want to see, and they're like,
papers,
and they're like, we don't have papers. We're like, oh, that's very serious.
You ever play Papers, Please, the game?
No.
Oh, that's a good one.
How do you play Papers?
What?
No, how do you play this game?
It's a video game, and you're a customs agent, and it's a made-up country, kind of in the Middle East. It's kind of like Russian. I forget what they call it, but you're inspecting passports, and you have to like compare the photos, and it's kind of just like a really simple whodunit kind of game. You know those you know like where you're so kind of like a game where you're running a restaurant and you have to run it as successfully as possible.
Yeah.
It's like that except with a customs agency, and if you let people go through and they end up being a terrorist and you get a little news clip, it's a lot of fun.
Sounds hilarious.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
Alright. So these two okay, they're dressed like
rhinestone cowboys.
Yeah, they're in black leather with rhinestones. If they had the black helmet, they look like the guys out of Spaceballs.
Village people. The rhinestone bedazzled. It's all black. Rhinestone bedazzled suspenders and the little cap police hats.
Yeah, it's pretty SS-esque and BDSM-esque.
It's a weird mashup.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're about to arrest the Dr. Romana because they found the doctor keeps telling them about the Vraxoan, and they wave a wand over him like, oh, traces of Vraxoan. You must be the smugglers. The doctor's like, no. And then the doctor distracts him. He and Romana run off, and they run to the room where the CET machine, which is the one that holds the little planets in stasis.
You remember what CET stands for?
No, do you?
Nope. something. I lost my coaster.
Alright, here's your coaster. Alright, so anyway, they run to that room. There's a scene earlier where Romana is watching the CET thing, and she thinks she sees somebody peeking out back at her. It's like, how can that be? But she looks, and then she gets stung by something, and she just says, "Oh, I must have fainted. I felt hot."
Never explains what stunned her.
Correct. Never explains it.
It's a weird white light that came out and gave her a kiss on the neck, and she passes out. And
must be a creature of Eden, of that world.
Maybe Strahd shot her.
I don't think so.
Like, no witnesses.
So there's Della, and Della finds her on the floor, picks her up, and Della goes to get her a drink.
That's the end of episode 2. Was when she's done.
No. And episode 2 is when they run in.
Romana takes a trip. Oh. Yes.
Is when they run in, yeah. And the girl is getting a glass of, looks like wine or brandy for Romana, and somebody dumps some Vraxoan into it. However, the captain shows up, and the captain decides to take that glass and let the next one go to Romana.
Exactly what happened to me when I went to New Orleans. Just kidding.
So
maybe
the captain ends up taking the Vraxoan, and Romana spared of that fate. Anyway, so the doctor and Romana run through the looking glass, and Romana's looking really Alice-y. It's in Alice in Wonderland in this episode, anyway.
Through the looking glass.
Yep.
So you said.
Yep. They go through, and they're running around, and they run into some of those creatures, the Mandals, and they manage to escape, but they're about to get killed by one, and
apparently they operate on sight or sound.
Yeah, very much sound. They're about to get killed by one, and somebody shows up and fires at the thing and causes it to go away. And
it's stopped again.
Yeah, turns out it's stopped.
It's been stopped the whole time.
Yeah, the mystery guy throughout all this was stopped.
I thought it was 2 characters.
Yeah. Supposedly he was dead, but he's not. He's been living inside the crystal projection of Eden for 183 days, or 186 days.
Something like that.
And...
which sounds miserable.
Yeah. He is an intelligence officer for the Space Corps, which is funny because we now have a Space Corps. Didn't then, do now. He's an intelligence officer for the Space Corps to try and figure out the drug smuggling. What's going on with that?
I think it's a great timeline with like the space insurance for commercial cruise liners and the Space Corps. It's like we could have all that by 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Mm-hmm. So he says that he was left behind for dead on Eden, but then got caught up in the Eden laser crystal thing.
Yeah, he got... well, we find out later why he was stunned or something, but then he went to this little control room, what do you call it, the house.
Yeah, he's got a little
fabricated house, which was their little research command post. So he runs in there to radio them that, hey, I'm still alive, don't leave me. But it's too late. He already gets digitized into the crystal sphere.
Right. But of course, he figured out one day that it was unstable because the partition between him and the other world was shining. Mm-hmm. And so he managed to leave it and end up on the Empress.
To lose, but to walk straight through,
yeah.
Worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So the doctor's like, well, if this is a zone, an unstable zone, can we get through the other unstable zone on the ships by going that particular direction? He's like, yeah, you can get out of this by going any direction. You'll get to wherever it is.
Wherever you want.
In the real world. And he's like, okay. So the doctor...
when we played Minecraft, was it when you walk through the portal in Minecraft, the Nether? Like every 1 block in the Nether is 10 blocks in the overworld. So you go in the Nether, you take a minecart for 1,000 blocks, and then come out through a portal, and you would have traveled like 10,000 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we get away from like. It's fun.
So the doctor stopped, and Romana go one direction until they actually come out.
Do you like that band? One Direction. You don't know you're beautiful. One Direction? No?
I've heard of them.
Okay.
I don't know the music. Alright. So they go in a particular direction, and...
Diversion.
Oh, there you go.
Is that what that means?
I have no idea. It means red's hard apple.
If you peel the label off without tearing it.
Okay. Congratulations.
I tell you that one time when I turned 21, I went out with my friend to my first big booze party. So we decided to pregame a little. So we picked up, like a little 6-pack of Smirnoff. We're hanging out. We still had an hour to the party. So we drank the whole 6-pack of Smirnoff. And I'd peel the labels off and I'd stick them all over myself. The little Smirnoff labels.
Oh, I think you have told me this.
We're sitting in his car getting ready to go to the party, and his dad comes out.
Yeah.
He's like, "You guys be safe tonight." We're like, "Oh yes, sir." Of course, very responsible. And he walks back in the house. He's like, "Do you think he knows we've been drinking?" And he looks like all these Smirnoff labels. I stuck over myself. He's like, "Yeah, I think he does." I was like, "Oh yeah."
I'm kind of advertising.
That's kind of a tell.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, does he know we've been drinking?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So the doctor, Stott, and Romana actually go a particular direction and finally wind up in the power room they've been trying to get to.
They finally got
Finally.
there. Only took them half the cereal.
Yeah. They get to the power room and the doctor's like, okay, Stott, is your wrist set to the watch set to the Empress? It's like, yep. It's like, okay, I will give you till 2025, which is 8:25 p.m. Give it to 2025, and then you get them to do the stuff on the other ship, and you move the power on this ship. You use the thrusters, and we will create this thing where K9 shoots a laser, and the ships will move apart.
As they happen at the same time. You flip your switch, I flip my switch.
Yeah.
Same time.
Right. So, okay.
I'm in check, aren't I?
Yes. So he tells Romana and Stott to head back, and they do. And Romana's like, well, wait a minute, what if a mandrel shows up? He says, I'll just have to use my wits. So the doctor sets up a deal where he can be gone, and the...
That's Luke Moore? That's your team, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so that's a legal move.
Whoop.
Right.
Okay.
So he can be gone, and the power will. Okay, and the power will, will do the deal, and it'll be good. But a mandrel shows up. The doctor kind of hides, runs off, and then the mandrel.
They stun it to begin with. And he says it's dead. So then,
but it's not. It's just
Stott and Romana take off. And K9, it's just the doctor, and they say, well, what if it wakes back up again? He's like, oh, I'll have to use... Or they say, well,
I'll use my wits.
Yeah, what happens if you run into a mandrel? I use my wits. And of course, the stun mandrel wakes back up.
Right. Comes after the doctor. The doctor gets away because he goes between some of the computers and stuff.
Servers.
Well, it's too big for the mandrel.
Space.
But then the mandrel comes after the doctor and sees this whole thing doctor set up, and he hits it. The doctor's like, no.
He starts the process, and it's making this beeping noise, and mandrels are something to do with sound and hunting, so he decides to karate chop the beeping thing.
And the mandrel's electrocuted, and the mandrel turns to dust when he dies.
Not just dust.
Right. So the doctor goes down, and he's like,
he turns into
Vraxoax. So the mandrel's the actual source of the drug.
That's so weird.
It is. It's so weird.
Could you imagine, like, snorting human bone dust to get high? What kind of like and powderized human bones are like the most addictive drug in the universe. So
that would be so weird.
What kind of market would that's so dark?
Supposedly. The Rolling Stones lead guitarist snorted his father's ashes.
Oof.
Yeah, suppose.
What is it with rock stars and snorting stuff? Like, what was it about David? No. Ozzy Osbourne snorted a line of fire ants or something. That's the that's the urban legend. They'll put anything in their nose. Rock stars.
So the doctor
starts snorting the dead.
No, he doesn't. So the doctor has just a few minutes to redo all the work he had already done, and he's working on it. In the meantime, Romana.
It's like an episode of 24. You see the clock.
Yeah, the clock ticking. Yeah,
closer to 2025. He's like, I'll never make it.
Oh, it's great because in a couple of years we can use that scene as the meme. Because it's 2022 right now.
Oh, yeah.
So when 2024 goes to 2025...
It was 2016. We could use that every year between 2016 and 2025. I don't know if it shows...
The 2024 to 2025 is the big change. So, in the meantime, the two bureaucratic people who want the papers...
Fisk and Costa.
Fisk and Costa.
Customs agents type.
Right, have put out death warrants on Romana and the doctor. It's like,
they say arrest
them. If they put any resistance, kill them.
Which is kind of fair. I mean, he thinks they're responsible for
Well, okay,
All the loss of life on these two space cruisers.
Trist.
They don't have evidence.
Right. Well, all they have is the circumstantial evidence of traces of Varaxin
In the doctor's
in
pocket.
the doctor's pocket. Trist convinces. At first, he says that Della
Yes.
must be the smuggler, that Stott did it. Then he
Throwing
convinces.
off the scent.
Right. Because we eventually find out it's him. But then he convinces Frisk that it must be the doctor and Romana.
Get it? Because he frisked him. Okay.
So he's just, throwing blame on anybody else to get a
Frisk
scent
is
off of him.
so power hungry of like busting the case, getting this big promotion.
Right,
He's
you get
just
a big promotion.
So gung ho about anything. He's like, oh yeah. So Frisk goes in and he starts smooth talking. He's like, and it fits in so perfectly with your theory, Frisk. He's like, yes.
Whoa. He's like, but why would he try to separate the ships? Oh, he's a criminal.
They do criminal things.
Yeah,
It's
criminals
like-
do
it's like,
anything
oh, yes,
for
yes,
no
exactly.
obvious reason. Yeah. So Frisk, Romana's coming back, and she goes back with Stott, and then she finally says, "Okay, Stott, you go back and help the doctor." And Romana comes through, and she's trying to make her way to the cockpit so that she can, or the bridge, whatever, so that she can push the button to start the engines at 2025. And she gets caught by, she gets there, and she gets caught by, what's his name? Not Diamond, Riggs. Riggs is coming down off his high.
Yeah, he is.
Riggs is like, you've got the stuff, right? I know you've got it. I gotta get rid of this feeling. This is a horrible feeling. Your mom's like, let me take care of the engines and we'll get you to the medics. And Riggs attacks her, flat out. He attacks her and he's gonna kill her. And then he gets shot by Frisk.
Addicting it is.
Yeah, very addictive substance. He tried it once and he was hooked.
Because they're willing to.
Oh my gosh,
for it.
messed up.
But once you take it, you're a dead man walking.
Yeah.
Slippery
So,
slope.
so Frisk kills Riggs. How many
course.
total deaths were in this?
It's very.
Oh, before that, we had the scenes of the Mendrels getting to the Riggs was completely stoned out of his mind, getting into the passengers and killing a whole bunch of them.
There's
Just killing them, and he's watching on the screens and laughing because he's stoned out of his mind. And
gross negligence.
yeah,
There's like 6 mandrills that are just running amok throughout the ship. Just-
and Frisk is like, "I'll have you shot for this." He's just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing because but wait, what was the total count? I think it was like 12 dead and 23 injured from the mandrels. Oh yeah, he says, "Wait, it's just economy."
So Frisk says the official report is 12 dead, 29 injured.
At
We
that
see-
point,
At
but
that
there's
point,
so many others who
we see
died.
one person die for sure on camera, and we see one mandrill die for sure on camera, and it could be up to 7 or 8 deaths that were on camera, but it's really hard to tell if they got stunned or if they died, or
Well,
if they got
I
knocked
mean,
out, or if they got
Riggs is killed.
Yeah.
The navigator was killed.
Secker died, and then
And
are you
Riggs
sure
died.
Riggs died?
Yes.
Or was he stunned?
No. Based on what was going on, he was killed.
So anywhere from like 2 to 8 deaths on camera.
And a whole bunch off camera. Well, some of those were on camera. We get to see some of those
We
scenes.
see about 3 to 5 people mauled by mandrills.
Oh my gosh, it was just bad.
You can't tell if it's the same person or a new person. It was really hard to keep track of the death count.
Alright, so, family show. Family show.
Several people died.
So,
Rather dark.
Romana says, "Thank you, he was about to kill me." And then Romana goes to hit the pilot button. And at that moment, Frisk is like, "Don't do it. Don't do it. I will shoot you." And she's like, "You were going to shoot me anyway." He's like, "Yeah, but don't do it." She waits till 2025 exactly. She hits the button. The doctor hits the automatic thing goes. K9, because the doctor blows into a dog whistle, does his deal. and you see all these weird warp thingies happen.
The doctor is running for it, but he doesn't quite have time to make it out of the corridor.
Right, and he turns into blue and then disappears. End of the episode.
Episode 3.
Yeah.
Let's do the time warp again.
Oh, episode 3, the beginning of it had one of the longer repeats, recaps, when they were dealing with Frisk and, yeah. It was a long recap. It was about a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
About a minute, I think.
Yeah, long. Okay, so episode 4, they recap and they show the doctors appearing. The ships are now separated, and they were successful, even though K9 said they only had about a 60% chance. But the doctor's nowhere on the ship, on the Empress.
But with
right, turns out he was caught. He was on the Hecate.
about 40% plot armor leeway on those. Those DC checks.
They were 100% successful. Everything's good. In the meantime, you see, and this is the first indication of who the real bad guys are. The first blatant indication. Trist and Diamond are like, I'll meet you later, yeah. And Diamond goes back to his ship. Trist goes back to his deal. The doctor wakes up and he's on the other ship, the Hecate. He finds what's the name of that laser?
Oh, I wrote it down.
Or Drogon, or that's the president of Turkey. I'm sorry.
Enchuka laser.
Enchuka laser.
Enchuka. What is an Enchuka laser?
Apparently it's a laser along which a whole bunch of information can travel, which in this case, the information that's encoded on the laser crystals on the CET or whatever it is.
So he realizes that they're making a plan to transfer the Vrax via the Enchuka laser to the other spaceship.
Because it was hooked to a CET machine. So he's like, oh. So that's, and the doctor figures out that it's
terribly clever.
Trist and Dugan, but yeah, that's very clever. And the doctor goes, okay, so Dugan is on a ship, and Frisk is like, what are you doing on your ship? And he's like, I've got to go. He says, no, you're a witness. I need you as a witness. If you leave, I will nail a writ to your ship, and you will be. And he's like, at the very least the very least, you are in a secured zone. That's a giant fine. So he gets, he basically, by bureaucracy, forces.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. He's like, do you make myself clear? Yes. Perfectly. So
he starts putting on his spacesuit to head back over to the.
Diamond has to come back. The doctor crawls into Diamond's shuttle, hides in the back. Diamond clicks into his oxygen support for a suit. The doctor realizes he has no oxygen, and so he turns himself off, goes into a comatose state, not breathing through his butthole because there's no oxygen. All right, let's put that to rest now. Thank you.
No, he can't do that.
No,
he doesn't
put that to rest.
He doesn't do it here. I'll agree.
Yeah, no.
But that's a real thing.
Rest.
People like monks. No, not the butthole thing. But monks will like kind of put themselves into a lull type coma state, and it lowers your heart rate and your oxygen consumption.
Catatonic trance.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's what he does here.
And he's right, because Time Lords can do that. He's done it before, and he's not freaking breathing through his butthole.
And he's not breathing through his butthole, although he has in the past.
No, he has not. He went through this exact same trance.
No.
Kurt, we did.
No,
yes.
he didn't, because when he was getting choked out, he said respiratory bypass, which means he's breathing through some other means, not in a trance. So if he's being constricted from the neck, that excludes all orifices from the neck up, which means he's breathing through an orifice from the neck down, which only really leaves one obvious option.
Let's go with a no. Respiratory bypass means he was not breathing. He could bypass the need in that trance.
No, he's bypassed. Well,
Okay.
let us know in the comments. I like the butthole theory.
We have no comments. We got a couple likes though.
Hey.
We actually had a few likes. Oh, and did you see I got both of those 105 and 106 put up last week?
Yeah. We missed an upload date. But
Yeah,
it's the
I
holidays.
literally had it rendered
So
and forgot to upload it.
You got a double prizes 1 week.
Yeah. Alright, so anyway, the doctor goes over in the shuttle. K9's like, I can't find the doctor. And Mom's like, oh no. And then the doctor shows up. K9's like, oh, the doctor's coming on board. So the,
Convenient.
yep. So Della and Romana are together, trying to find the doctor, which they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because the doctor comes in on the shuttle.
And then to each other. And he says, we're going to reverse the polarity. The CET machine.
Not quite. They reverse the transpondence or something.
Just call it polarity.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Same thing, though.
so the doctor's like, oh, they're gonna smuggle this through the information deal to that what's it called? The what laser?
And Chuka.
Intuka laser. So the now you finally see Trist and Diamond fully being bad guys, shooting the controls of the Empress.
And he has the German accent, so he's just
Dutch
immediately
German.
he immediately fits into that Bond villainous.
Yeah, he does actually.
My plan, yes.
Yeah. Great villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the enunciation
I really
that
like
he does. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the doctor's like, well, wait a minute. He's going to transfer this. Well, let's let them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, really? Well, yeah, let's let them. And finally, what's his face? Stott comes out of the projection.
Yeah.
Comes out of Eden.
Customs agents flood into the room.
Right.
They see
They're
the
about
Dr. Romana.
Right, the Dr. Romana trying to fix the CET so they can capture the bad guys.
Say freeze.
Stott comes out and shows his card, and they're like, oh, Space Corps intelligence. Okay, we're listening to you. And he says, they're good guys. They're not bad guys. Don't shoot them. They can help capture the bad guys.
The bad guys are
Right.
Tristan Diamond.
Tristan Diamond. So the doctor's like, okay, and they're working on the machine. And he literally...
Reverse polarity.
Well, hold on. First, there's all the Mandals on the main ship.
Yeah, they have to.
Right, and they're kind of the guards are stunning them and sending them forward, but their guns run out of juice.
Mm-hmm.
And right as they're about to get killed, the doctor shows up with his dog whistle for K9, and apparently the Mandals can hear it, and they follow the doctor like the Pied Piper, with the rats. And they follow the doctor into Eden. He's trying to actually get. Oh, and Della had showed up on the bridge, and she's like, the doctor's trying to get the Mandals back into Eden. He's like, then he goes, well, then I wholeheartedly support him on this because he wanted the same thing because they're valuable for drugs.
Trying to transport.
Right, trying to transport it.
So we'll give them what they want to bait the hook, and then we've talked about how the Mandals are very audio-centric. They hunt by sound, yada, yada, yada. So it's something to do with the dog whistle and the really high
pitch,
frequency.
They followed, but they weren't aggressive.
They're not aggressive. They're aggressive to lower pitches. So I guess the doctor knew, I don't know, he knows about the creatures because he says, hey, don't make a sound. They hunt by sound.
Right.
And
Or
then
he just observed.
Or he observed. But somehow he knew that the really high-pitched dog whistle is kind of like a soothing effect. And every time you stop to take a breath,
they go,
they'd start getting aggressive, and you have to start blowing the dog whistle again.
Right.
They followed him through the projection.
They follow him into Eden, into the projection, and then he's like, he tries to lead them away, and then they seem to corner him, and you hear off screen, oh my arms, oh my legs, oh my everything,
and twigs are snapping, and
right,
bushes are flying.
Yeah, and he comes out, and his clothes are all decimated. But he manages to get out, and then they shut it down so that the creatures can't get out. They turn off the CET.
I imagine is that once he stopped blowing in the whistle, they were trying to eat him, And when he says, "Oh, my arms and legs," he's talking about his jacket arms. And they're kind of like grabbing after him, and they just tore off his coat as he was trying to get away. He did the little Scooby-Doo dance around.
Yeah, he's pretty haggard at that point. So he gets out
By the skin of his teeth.
And then the bad guys, Tristan Diamond, take their laser and download all the info.
And then they download Tristan.
Okay, so yeah, they start taking off, and the Doctor has Romana rebuild the CET, and they amplify the capabilities of it using sonic screwdriver and K-9's power by plugging the jump start things onto his ears so they get the power. And the Doctor's like, okay, where are they? And they get an exact location and fix it the ship. And the Doctor puts it in, and they had captured that ship inside the CET. And then the Doctor opens it up. Frisk and what's the other guy's name?
Costa.
Diamond
and Tristan?
Well, no, Frisk and Costa. Send in their guys, they capture them, bring them out, and the bad guys are captured.
So there's this really funny prank they did in Japan where they'd wait until someone goes into an outhouse, and they'd roll up this kind of mobile housing unit over it, and inside of it was an office, and there's this office table and a whole bunch of like Japanese well-suited executives are sitting there at the table.
What?
And they'd be there having a business meeting, and they'd wait for the person to open the door to the outhouse, and they went into the outhouse, and then they came out into an office room, and they're just super confused, which is kind of like what happened here.
Yes.
Trist and Diamond think they're getting away scot-free, and the next thing they know, the wall turns into a bunch of police officers there to arrest them. It's just like,
Correct.
Almost got away with it too.
So the Doctor and Romana have the crystals, and it's great. Okay, so Trist comes out and he's like, I never wanted to do this. I was just trying to fund my expeditions because I wanted to catalog all the creatures in the galaxy, and it was bankrupting me. And the Doctor's like,
you're a scientist, tell them.
Tell them. And the Doctor's like, go away. Because the Doctor hates the morality of this whole thing, right? Of killing millions of people to fund his research.
That's a direct quote.
With the drug, yeah.
Profits on human suffering.
Yeah. Was like 9.1 million, whatever the hells it was. That was the profit on the human suffering.
Oh yeah.
9.1
million net or gross net.
Project
billion.
Yeah.
Credit profits for smuggling this Vrax drug. So he's funding his scientific research and expeditions off the pain and suffering of other people, and his justification for that is free will. It's their own choice to do drugs.
Yeah, the ends justify the means, and then the Doctor's like, well. Did this guy have a choice? Did this guy have a choice? The people they poisoned with it directly.
Captain Riggs and his unfortunate circumstance.
But I love seeing the Doctor so solidly
callous.
Yeah, to a man who's created so much suffering for so many people. Yeah,
I feel like the Doctor's entire personality, at least what I've seen so far, has been set up with two Doctors. It was the very first Doctor, which was Hartnell, who's on one side of the spectrum is a avuncular, loving, but however cold, callous, kind of curmudgeon type-esque person. Yeah. And then the other side, the complete opposite of the spectrum was set up by Troughton, which was the complete opposite side. He was fun-loving and goofy. He was still intellectual, but not at all serious the majority of the time. And I feel like every other Doctor I've seen so far has fallen in between that spectrum between Hartnell and Troughton. We went back to Pertwee, who was a little bit more gruff. He's a little bit more like Troughton. And then now we're at Baker. He's a little bit more fun-loving. He's a little bit closer to... Pertwee's a little bit more closer to Hartnell. Baker's closer to Troughton, I think.
In general, but they all have their moments of either side. Like this is Tom Baker's Hartnell moment.
The same character, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the same.
I feel like no one has passed Hartnell in terms of grumpy, curmudgeon-y kind of, and I feel like no one's passed Troughton so far in terms of goofy, fun-living. So I feel like
whimsical.
they're the two sides of the spectrum, and then the doctors I've seen, Pertwee and Baker, fall within that spectrum that was established by the first two doctors.
The seventh Doctor, top right. No, there.
Can't reach.
He will pass the second Doctor in whimsy.
Really?
Yes.
So he sets up a new extreme on the spectrum.
Yes. In terms of curmudgeonliness and dark,
War Doctor, maybe? I imagine
if
War Doctor
anyone, the War Doctor,
would
yes.
surpass maybe Hartnell in terms
Eccleston, no. So it would be the War Doctor.
Yeah.
All right, because most of the Doctors show signs of whimsy and they show signs of seriousness at different times. In fact,
fall within that spectrum.
David Tennant's first episode, he hits both extremes, like seriously hits both extremes.
I feel like as the Doctors get younger, they kind of transition from a more older, serious, curmudgeon-y-ish to more of a sassy kind of seriousness. It's like a cross between the goofy and the snappy. It's kind of like
you've got a little bit of both in everybody.
Yeah, I mean it's the same character, it's just different portrayals and generations.
Tennant was the master of doing that on a dime. Just boom,
mood swinging.
Boom. Yes.
Throw out some sass.
Like his first episode, you see the whimsical and you see the absolute serious on that both.
Cool.
I mean, look how serious he is in that.
I mean
picture.
that is the character of the Doctor is.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so the Doctor and Romana decide to take the crystals and return them to their home planets, which apparently it stripped all that from the home planet.
Apparently they have something like an
Chuka
laser.
They have superior technology, which makes sense. They're Time Lords and they've got a TARDIS.
They have the whole dematerialization thing down to a science.
Yeah, which apparently it's mentioned earlier that Trist had almost stumbled upon the way that the TARDIS exists.
Yeah.
in the show.
Dematerialization.
Right, and dimensions within dimensions, technology. Stable and unstable.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy mackerel, that's interesting. This human had almost created this.
It's so early in the timeline, but 2000 still.
No, 2100s.
Yeah.
2116-ish or so.
So still within the second millennium of millennia of New Age human. This millennia.
It's the third millennium.
2000
is the third millennium.
A millennium's 1,000 years.
Yeah, we've had the hundreds. That's 1,000 years. We had the thousands. Now we're in the 2000s. We're currently in the third millennium.
Right. That's what I meant. Still within the third millennium. The 2000s is they've discovered Time Lord-esque technology.
Well, this one guy did, but he didn't have the capability to apply it, right?
And you never really see them expound upon it, but it just goes to show kind of like why Time Lords are so fascinated with humans and their dexterity of, what do you call it? Adaptation.
Yeah,
they just kind of survive no matter what.
Yep. All right, what questions do you have for this?
This was a pretty straightforward sci-fi action. Not a whole lot of concepts we haven't seen before. We did talk about...
There's not too many ones that deal with serious-ass drugs, you know?
Yeah. Kind of more of a real-world, serious type topic than the super fantasy sci-fi type out there stuff. I mean, it's a made-up drug, but kind of concepts we're familiar with. Not a whole lot of obfuscation. We talked about the timeline of the episode, the technology involved in the episode. We hit on some of the questions, like what was it that ever stunned Romana? We don't really know, I guess was the answer to that. she takes a nap. She passed out, I guess.
Yeah.
Something bites her. We had did we talk about the doctor biting the root and how that was gross?
No, okay. So while they're in Eden, after they get away, or before they after they get away from one of the Mendrels, but before they end up getting to the one that's going to kill them before Stott sends it away, the doctor gets caught in a Venus flytrap that's sized for men. And quite literally, he's being dragged into it. And he tells Ramon to give him the root, and he bites the root, and the thing starts bleeding, and he kind of shoots its blood into its own mouth, and the thing gives him up, and he gets away.
And he said, "You know what?
Yeah, it didn't taste half bad, or didn't taste bad at all."
Big old eggplant parm.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a really giant Venus flytrap kind of thing.
One question I always have to ask every podcast is, does the villain come back? Do we ever see the Mandrels again? This is a one-off? Or...
No, none of these villains ever come back.
Okay. I always have to ask that question, because you never know.
Although I do like the actor very much who played Trist.
That was a really great villain. You didn't think he was a villain, then surprised the old plot twist. I mean, it wasn't a big surprise, because at that point...
It got down to the process of elimination.
Yeah. It eliminated everyone. They're like, well, it's not Stott and it's not Della. Well, that really only leaves two other main characters. Because it's not the captain. Yeah, we kind of went through the list.
Yeah, so many people died.
If you asked me on episode 1 or 2, I would have had no idea.
Yeah.
So this is great. But it is a slow burn kind of revealing the plot. And you're like, oh, I get it. I would sit in that.
Yeah. But it seems to move fairly quickly.
It was a well-paced episode. Yeah, there's a lot of action, a whole lot of twists, character developments. It was fun. I enjoyed the action-y bit. Yeah, it was very action-oriented type sci-fi.
Any other questions?
I thought I had one. Well, let me double-check here. Did you make your chess move yet?
Yes, I did. I moved my knight over there.
No, I'm in check again, aren't I?
No, you're not in check at the moment, but I'm threatening pieces.
You sure are.
Let's say that for next week. You've been playing this game for like a year.
Oh, did we talk about the end quote? How man is the only race that's most at home in an electric zoo, unlike other...
Yeah, Ron's like, I can think of only one creature that'd be at home in an electric zoo. And they're like, oh, what would that be? Ron says, I don't think I want to tell them. And K9's like, negative mistress, which it's man, obviously, you know.
I feel like this whole serial was a big commentary on the drug issue and how the government doesn't know how to handle it. That was kind of like the underlying message. It's like,
well, I mean, they thought they handled it because they literally... Because this drug had killed so many people across so many galaxies, they had firebombed the planet to death. They completely nuked the planet.
Yeah, but if we're comparing and contrasting the sci-fi serial to real-life circumstances, it felt like the whole thing was a commentary on how the government is sort of botching the war on drugs. Like, it's a tone-deaf response of what people are suffering from.
Well, there was no war on drugs at the time. It was 1979.
Right.
The war on drugs came in the 1980s with Reagan.
And it was more of an American
Mrs.
thing.
Reagan.
But so that's why this commentary feels so ahead of its time, because this is an issue we still relate to, is the government trying to figure out how to deal with the drug crisis, fentanyl, and stuff, and it's all bureaucratic.
But at the same time, at the very end, the doctor says, you know, Trish was right. People do have the choice to take it or not.
And we hope that no one discovers.
And we hope, no one discovers the source of it.
So often make the wrong choice.
Correct.
To kind of obfuscate it. So it ends on a hopeful note of we've kind of dealt with this problem, but we're not eliminating this other species.
Well, yeah, we don't want to genocide the last of the species in the hope that people don't figure it out. But it's very much a person's choice kind of thing, you know.
Crack, not even once, because it's
very
addicting. Gosh. Fentanyl, don't even try it.
Well, kids. The problem with fentanyl is they lace other drugs with fentanyl.
Don't do drugs, kids. I doubt there's alcohol. Don't do drugs that aren't well regulated.
Don't do illegal drugs.
Don't do illegal drugs. drugs that might be laced with fentanyl.
Legal ones are just fine.
To be fair, some legal drugs are way worse than illegal drugs. Like, I'd rather you smoke weed than tobacco and cigarettes. But, you roll the dice. It's your choice. Say no to drugs.
Tobacco, okay, to be fair, weed is quasi-legal. And it's legal in a lot of
It's becoming
states.
more legal, but I feel like it's an illegal substance federally that's much safer than nicotine in cigarettes, which is a legal substance. However, much more dangerous than
There's a lot of weird history for that.
However, because marijuana is federally not legalized, it's not as well regulated.
Decriminalized.
It's decriminalized, not legal federally. States are decriminalizing it, which means if you're buying it in a sketchy place, it might be laced with fentanyl. So,
Alright, so next time we have the Horns of Nimon. Next Monday. Oh my gosh.
Overacting.
Love it. There's this one guy in the piece that overacts the hell out of it, and it's so much fun.
So it's like we're back to the pirate planet.
Yes. Well, but it's so much fun. And then after that we have Shada. Which I don't know if it's going to be the 1 episode or the 6 episodes.
Either way, it's a classic, right?
Really popular. It was written by Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
It's a serial that was stopped in the middle due to the strike, and they finished it up decades later.
Really?
Decades later with animation because all the actors are still alive. Wow. Including Tom Baker. All the actors except one.
So they had to revoice it and then animate it? Or?
No. Yeah, they did the animation, and all the actors except one are still alive, and they voiced it.
Wow.
And you get to see Tom Baker at the very end of it. Romana, you hear her voice off screen. She doesn't show up because I take it she wanted to be remembered the way she was originally, and she was in her 70s or 60s or 70s, and she probably looks a lot different and doesn't like the aging process. But I say embrace your aging process, but not everyone agrees,
Yeah. That's easy for us to say as men.
Well, it's easier. Yeah.
Men just age. Women feel like they.
Well,
social. Blah, blah, blah.
We age better, but on the other hand, not all men get to that point.
They die.
A lot of them die younger, and they never get to the point where they age better. Whereas women, more of them have that blossoming in the sun in their youth.
Well, you've aged like fine wine, my friend, and hopefully I die young and don't age like fine cheese.
I age like fine milk, All right. Cheers. We'll see you next week. All right.
Thank you for joining us. Hop in your TARDIS. We'll see you next Monday. Bye.